Wonderful. Let's jump into our lectionary reading then. I have made sure it was short. We are in John 10. We are jumping into John. We're going to read the first 10 verses, but it is helpful before that to understand a tiny bit of context. So in John chapter 9, Jesus encounters a man who was born blind, and he kind of spits in some dirt, and the bloke ends up getting healed. And it is quite a miracle. It's very significant. The Pharisees, though, are super suspicious after this. The Pharisees are like, what the hell? Let's investigate this man. And they're asking questions like, who is he? Is he a prophet? And then Jesus actually answers at the end of that chapter 9 of John. He answers and he says, I'm the Son of Man. Very exciting, which if you've been around long enough, you'll know is actually a callback to the prophetic writings in the book of Daniel, which is basically saying, I'm the guy who's going to sit down next to the Ancient of Days. He's calling himself the Messiah. He's making a claim about his authority in heaven and earth when he calls himself the Son of Man. In verse 39, he then says this of chapter 9, Jesus said, for judgment I have come into this world so that the blind will see and those who see will become blind. He's being very mysterious. And some Pharisees who heard him say this and asked, what? Are we blind too? And Jesus said, if you were blind, you would not be guilty of sin, but now that you claim you can see, your guilt remains. Which all would have made more sense if we'd read the whole chapter. But the footnotes are, he heals a bloke, he claims to be the Messiah, and he says, the people who are blind are now going to see, and you mob who have pretended you could see all this time, you leaders and Pharisees and Bible nerds, you've said that you could see, but really you are blind. And then he says, and our lectionary passage starts in John 10, very truly I tell you, Pharisees, anyone who does not enter the sheep pen by the gate, but climbs in by some other way is a thief and a robber. The one who enters by the gate is the shepherd of the sheep, and the gatekeeper opens the gate for him, and the sheep listen to his voice. He calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. And when he has brought out all his own, he goes on ahead of them, and his sheep follow him because they know his voice. But they will never follow a stranger. In fact, they will run away from him because they do not recognize a stranger's voice. See, Jesus used this figure of speech, but the Pharisees did not understand what he was telling them. Therefore, Jesus said again, very truly, I tell you, I am the gate for the sheep. All who have come before me are thieves and robbers, but the sheep have not listened to them. I am the gate. Whoever enters through me will be saved. They will come in and go out and find pasture. The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I have come that they may have life and have it to the full. I didn't grow up in a liturgical tradition, but I did go to an Anglican school. And anytime I read the Bible in my brain, at the end of it, I can't help but think this is the word of the Lord. And then if you grew up in a tradition that did that, you would all then reply, thanks be to God. Maybe I want to reintroduce that because I think it's an important thing. This is the word of the Lord. All right, good. So the Pharisees likely had a fair bit of disdain for shepherds. They were working class, they were dirty, they touched animals, they were unclean and uncouth. But oddly, despite that, the shepherding imagery is very common in the Bible. And not only is it very common in the Bible, it's normally talking about kingship and the people. So it's a metaphor of a shepherd who holds the place of king and the people who are like the sheep. And so in the Old Testament, this language is repeated again and again. And so it is a common thing when a rabbinic speaker would speak about sheep and shepherds, everyone knew what they were talking about. Oh, he's talking about the leaders or our king, and he's talking about the people. So Ezekiel in the Bible prophesied against the shepherds of Israel. And he wasn't having a go at the people herding shepherds and goats, lambs and goats. He was having a go at the king. He was having a go at the priests. So Ezekiel prophesies against the shepherds of Israel because they made themselves wealthy, and to use the shepherding imagery, by fleecing and by slaughtering the flock without any concern for the sheep's welfare. And in response to that, in Ezekiel, God actually declares this. This is in Ezekiel 34:11. He says, I myself will search for my sheep and look after them. So God's like, I am going to retire all of you rubbish shepherds, and I will do the job myself. And the imagery of Ezekiel 34, it points to King David as a true shepherd because he's kind of like their archetype for a good shepherd, which is why the Messiah then comes from the line of David, and he's a new David. He's an upgrade on the old David. Like we were talking earlier this year, we had Moses, and Jesus is an upgrade of Moses. So Moses is the archetype of prophet, and Jesus is the ultimate prophet, and David is the archetype of king, but Jesus is the real deal. He's the top shelf version. Now, when in Ezekiel, we have this messianic foreshadowing, it somewhat awkwardly refers to God as the true shepherd, and then it's in Jesus that finally makes sense. God puts on flesh, and God is shepherd to his people. Jesus is, poor little baby. This passage, if you keep reading, it eventually says Jesus is the good shepherd. So Jesus takes on the mantle of being the true shepherd that Ezekiel wanted. The gatekeeper opens the gate for him, and the sheep listen to his voice. He calls his own sheep by name, and he leads them out. When he has brought out all his own, he goes on ahead of them, and his sheep follow him because they know his voice. My example here is actually about Bernie, and I'm feeling a little worried about him, actually. He's at the vet right now. He's just not feeling very well. And the first sign that I could see that my Bernie's my dog, that he wasn't feeling very well is that I came home and he didn't greet me at the stairs. Normally, it's the highlight of his day when I get home. And I went around my house calling out to him, and I was very worried because I couldn't find him. And eventually I found him in his bed right next to the stairs. He didn't even get up to come and say hello to me. Because normally if I would call him, he comes. And in the evening, he'll often fall asleep on a couch or something, but I will get into bed and I will just, even the noise of me getting into bed, but if I say his name, he comes running to jump up onto the bed with me. He knows my voice, and nothing can stop him from responding to that. And so the gatekeeper opens the gate for the shepherd, and the sheep then will follow the shepherd because they know his voice. And so I hope Bernie's okay. But they will never follow a stranger. They will never follow a stranger. In fact, even the rest of my family can call Bernie, and he'll ignore them. But he doesn't ignore me. He knows my voice. In fact, they will run away from the stranger because they do not recognize a stranger's voice. And so Jesus used this figure of speech, but the Pharisees did not understand what he was telling them. They did not have eyes to see and ears to hear. Jesus' claim to being the Son of Man, to being the Messiah, to being the shepherd, the prophesied good shepherd, his claim hinges on the idea that his sheep hear his voice and follow him. His claim is that I have the evidence. I can heal the blind man. The blind man can now see. You'll see, because he's one of my sheep and he hears my voice. The disciples are my sheep and they hear my voice and they follow me. Jesus is saying, this is the evidence of my kingship. My sheep hear my voice. His proof is the testimony of transformed lives from those that follow his voice. His proof is that his sheep have life and have it to the full. And therefore Jesus said again, very truly I tell you, I am the gate for the sheep. All who have come before me are thieves and robbers, but the sheep have not listened to them. This is a weird phrase, I'm the gate for the sheep. So explain that a little bit. He's saying, I protect the sheep. Imagine you're a farmer in Palestine in the 1st century, and in the evening, the sheep sleep under the cleft of a rock or in a cave of some sort. And then what would happen is the shepherd would literally lie down across the entrance to the cave. Nothing can get in. They are safe. All night long, they will be in this safe place because the shepherd acts as a gate. He will not let them wander away, and he won't let predators wander in. But the leaders of Israel, so when he says that that all those who came before him, all of those who came through the gate, all of those who came into the sheep, he says that they were robbers and thieves. They were brigands and bad guys. They were the wrong sort. And what he's really saying here, if you understand his metaphor, he's saying, your King Herod and your Pharisees and leaders of the Sanhedrin and leaders in the temple, they are robbers and thieves. So the Pharisees are literally there investigating him. He says, I'm the Messiah. I healed this bloke. Look at all my followers. I've got the evidence to prove it. And not only am I the real deal, you are robbers and brigands. You are the wrong deal. You are false leaders. It's a really harsh statement. He's saying you, and not just you, the other leaders, because there are a whole series of different people who claim to be the leaders of Israel, the real deal. So we had our Pharisees, we had our Sadducees, even the Zealots who thought that they were the revolutionaries who were fighting the good fight. You even had the Essenes, who were this group of widows that were really into baptism, who lived in the hills, who thought that they were the real religious revolutionaries. And all of them, Jesus says, they are fakers. Those who collude with Rome, the temple leadership, to get wealthy by stealing from the flock, which is why Jesus turns the tables over in the temple. And on the other end of the spectrum, you have those revolutionaries who are warlords, who think that we can kill our enemies and destroy what they have built in order to amass power for themselves, essentially. And right today, this is still true. This condemnation of leadership today is still true. We have leaders that promote an agenda that serves the rich and is not concerned about justice, is not concerned about righteousness. We have leaders that kill and steal and destroy. We have leaders that lie and make war in order to gain power and build their personal empires. And to all of them, Jesus would say, who came before me, you are thieves and robbers. But I am the real deal, and my sheep will hear my voice, and they will follow me. I am the gate. Whoever enters through me will be saved. This word sozo in the Greek, it doesn't just mean saved. It means that they will be healed. They will be made well. They will be delivered. They will come in and go out and find pasture. The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I have come that they may have life and have it to the full. And that's the 10th verse. Our lectionary stops there, but I'm going to read you one more. I am the good shepherd, and the good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. You see, Jesus is saying, I am the true king. I am the true shepherd. I'm not building a kingdom that just elevates me. I'm building a kingdom that protects and cares, that restores, that heals. And he's not just king of Israel. If we read a few more verses, we'll cheat here. He says, I have other sheep that are not of this sheep pen. I must bring them also. They too will listen to my voice, and there shall be one flock and one shepherd. Jesus is presenting a great controversy here. Not only is he claiming to be the Son of Man, the Messiah, the good shepherd, the true deal, instead of the fakers and the violent and the political conspiring and all of those guys. He's saying, I'm the real deal, and not only am I king over you, I am king over every pasture. I am the good shepherd over every pasture, and I have sheep in every single one of them, and I'm going to gather them all. There shall be one flock and one shepherd. And not only will he do that, but he also is the good shepherd that lays down his life for the sheep. This shepherd has sheep that we don't even know about. And think about his first century audience. He's saying, I love sheep that you hate. So each week in the lectionary, we get given a series of verses. We get a gospel, we get an Old Testament verse, we get an epistle verse, and we also get a psalm. And so very appropriately, the psalm for this week is Psalm 23, and I'm going to read that for us, because this is the background imagery that his Israelite audience would be recalling when he's talking about a good shepherd. The Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing. He makes me lie down in green pastures, and he leads me beside quiet waters. He refreshes my soul. He guides me along the right paths for his name's sake. And even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. And you prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, and my cup overflows. Surely your goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. This is the word of the Lord. Amen.